Can't connect to node 1? What? Hello explorers, welcome to another video. Today we are going to talk about Herddb. And Herddb is a mass storage device thingy that runs on Zookeeper and Bookkeeper, and I didn't know anything about this before I actually looked into Herddb. I saw it on a talk on Apache, the summit of Apache, and I wanted to look into it because we have a lot of data in our clusters at the moment at work, and we're running MySQL, and we wanted to have something that was a little bit more like a data cluster. And how could we manage that in a good way? I guess you can do that with a MySQL cluster as well, but I wanted to look into other solutions here as well. And what I looked at was Herddb. The talk was by the inventors of Herddb. They used them on their sites. Seemed to be small sites, but they were doing some email messaging handling, and it seemed to work fine for them. So I wanted to look into it. After a lot of research and looking back and forth, I realized that Herddb needed to run on Zookeeper. So I needed to install Zookeeper. And it also used Bookkeeper. So I thought I needed to install Bookkeeper as well. Bookkeeper took a long time to build, and it was actually built into the Herddb software, so I didn't need to build that one. So let's look at this specific setup I have here. I'm gonna switch over to my screen here. So this is one of the running nodes here. This is node 1 with the Herddb service. And if we look at this Herddb, it's a package that you download from the releases on the Herddb GitHub page. I will leave that in the description down below. And as you see here, I have also had Bookkeeper as an option, but you don't need to build that one. So in order to get this to work, I wanted to first go into, I need to install Zookeeper. And Zookeeper is actually a package of Debian. So you just have to do apt install Zookeeper, and that's done for you. Then you can go into etc Zookeeper, and I think there is a conf directory, and then you have the so config. And here you need to first off specify which servers you have in your cluster. And I have node 1, node 2, node 3, and I have added those names to my host files on all my nodes, so they know about each other. So I just need to type it in like this, and that's pretty much what you need to do in this file. Then there is a file as well called myid, where you need to put the number of server that you have for this specific Zookeeper instance. In this case, it's node 1, so it has a 1 in that file. Then I can start Zookeeper, and it will start running. So that's very simple to get Zookeeper to run in a clustered environment and get it to run. And if you need to add more nodes, you just change the configuration file, restart the service, and it will add these nodes. Then we have the, let's see, Herd here. In order to get that to work, we also have config in this. And the configuration in Herd is in the package and already available for you. And it's built as a locally used data source. So you need to change that. So first off, you go into zooconfig. And here you need to, no, not zooconfig, into server properties. And here first you need to change the server mode into cluster. Then you need to go down and look at the server node ID and give it a name. And I can't stress this enough that you need to give it a name. I first gave it just one, as I did with Zookeeper, so it has a number. But then you can't actually do queries against this because the queries will not work. It didn't really understand that this is an identifier for this node, So I got some SQL queries issues, so I needed to remove all my data and start over again. So a name is important here, so I call it node 1. And then we need to go down to zoo, and here we have zookeeper, and we need to add the addresses of all the nodes for the zookeeper. So I have node 1, node 2, node 3, and if you have a specific namespace that you want to use for this, and it's not Herd, it's some other namespace that you want to use in your zookeeper instance, then you put it in here as a path. And then you can start this. So bin, in the bin directory here, they have a script called service, and then you take server start. And you can actually start zookeeper from here as well. So you just type service zookeeper start, and that will start your service for the zookeeper. So now we have something running, and we will get a log file. And it can be that the log file states some errors and you need to go back and change those up. If you end up in a situation where the data is corrupt and you can't proceed and you're just testing this, you can remove all data. And the easiest way I found to do this was to close down both services, remove the database directory here, db data, and also in the var lib zookeeper directory, there is a directory called version 2 or some version dash something. If you remove that, you will have removed the zookeeper data. If you restart the services, it comes up and runs again. Sadly, I've done this at least 6 times because I have done some weird setup. I've installed things. I created table spaces, and you can't remove table spaces. I've found functionality for that, and so on. So there were a lot of learnings to be done in this project. Sadly, that's just a part of this. I think as a version 0.22, it's not ready for production or not ready for external users to use. The documentation is not really there at the moment. So they need to work on the documentation and also need to work a bit on the functionality. So if we switch over to some code here. So here I wanted to use my Herd cluster now that I've set it up finally. And then you first off add the Herddb GDBC connection here. So that I've done in my Maven project, and that got imported. And then I add the JDBCD driver, and I have set up this username and password. Default is SA and HDB. If you want to change this, there is a config file in the conf directory users, and here you have a very primitive version of what users there are and what roles they have. So there you can easily change this. And then we create a connection driver, and this JDBC instance here, or this string, is actually presented to you in the web GUI. So there's a web GUI. When you start up your server, you will get the address to your web GUI and to the metrics server, so you can actually get some metrics out. So if we go over to this, here we have the Herd GUI, and here you see the JDBC URL that I can just copy and paste into my Java library. And let's see if I can go around here. It seems that I've lost connection, and that happens a lot, sadly. So if I go back here and log in, this doesn't really work every time. You have to click multiple times sometimes, and then you get in. And if I look at my table space here, I can see which nodes are here. I have a leader, which is node 1, and that's something that I specify when I created this new space as a table space. And you also see here that I have a table called task, and it has some metadata and some index. So you can go around and look a bit here. You can also go look at the nodes and get some good information about those. So you have some information in this web GUI. It's still pretty early, as you see. There's not a lot of information there, but a decent amount of the information is there. So let's see here. I've connected to the service, and then I can actually do select states and like this, select all from sys-table spaces or sys-table replicate state. So I can get the state of the replication and also the system table spaces. And there is a few of these tables that you can actually look into, and those are documented. So you can actually find that in the documentation. And there is also a sys-tables that you can look into and see which tables are available on this instance. In this case, I'm looking at the Herd. So Herd is the default table space, and I look at which tables are in there. So that these are some functions that I tried out in the beginning. This get all data is a function I just wrote here, which creates a statement, takes the result set metadata, and then prints out all the columns with all the values in the database. So it's a very simple function. Next up, I wanted to create my own table space. So I have some separate space where I can store my data. And the easy way to do this is create table, and then the name of the table space, and then create table space, the name of the table space, which node should be the leader, and you need to specify this. If you don't do that, it will pick the one that you connected to. And then you have a wait, how long it should wait for connections before it disconnects, I guess. And then we have the expected replica count. How many replicas do I want in my table space? And I can put that either on an alter table space, so I can do changes to the table space, or on the create statement. And then when it's created, I want to get the sys table information about my tables in this new space. And that works fine. And then I have this create statement here, which creates a new table called tasks with some values here. And then I have an insert statement. And these two worked fine, actually, just like any MySQL instance. And then I have this select statement here where I can get all the data from my database. So if we run this, we should get all the data that I have here. This is my task and state and date and so on. So I have this task and I can retrieve it again from my database. So it actually works. But now comes the sad part. If I go into this node again, node 1, we know that node 1 was the leader. And I go in here and do a bin service server stop. So I will stop this server. So now node 1 is not available anymore. It takes a while for it to actually kill the service, but when the service is dead, we can look into the log again here. Server log, and it has shut down. If I then run this Java code again, and it takes a while for it to connect and create the table space in memory, I guess, and it takes a lot of memory. I should point that out as well. I actually ran out of memory, which I seldomly do now. Now I get the error, cannot connect to node 1. What? Why? This is a cluster. I have specified all the nodes. You should be able to get that data from any other node that is following my leader. And this cluster has been running for a long while, so it should not require node 1 to be available. I guess that you can go in and alter the table and say that someone else is a leader, but this is downtime when you are running your application. Your application is not working at the moment. So that's not great. And if we go to the web GUI here and try to click around a bit more, and I need to go back to the earlier statement here and try to log in. I'm not sure if it is going to log in at all, or if this table space, I will not get any information out from this. So this is not really working as a cluster. It doesn't really have fault tolerance and so on. And this makes me a little bit sad. It's a little bit of a sad statement, because I really saw that this was an interesting approach, and it could have been a really good way to be running a cluster, and it just doesn't work, sadly. But this project is very early in development. I will try to keep an eye on it and see if it changes going forward, and perhaps they will solve these issues and it will be a viable solution. But today, sadly, I don't think this will be a viable solution for you if you want to run your data load on on something else than MySQL. I hope that you found this video interesting. I hope that you learned something today. Perhaps you were thinking about looking at Herddb yourself and have some more information about it now. Perhaps you're also looking for such a similar solution, or have already found one. Then please leave a comment in the comment section down below. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do that. And if you like this video, give it a like, share it with your friends and colleagues, and I really hope to see you in the next video.